Hi, this is Denise M., your Area 50 Western New York, Panel 72 delegate to the General Service Conference. In this segment, I'll be reviewing the two recommendations that came out of the Report and Charter Committee at the conference, as well as the several committee considerations. And I'm just noting that this was the primary committee on which I served. So our first committee consideration was to review the publishing report from the General Service Office, and we accepted that. And we also noted in our committee consideration and encouraged areas to use digital technology in their local reporting. And obviously, if you're listening to these PowerPoint presentations, you have reached into our digital technology in Area 50. Thank you very much for doing so. And I also am recommending, if you are interested in further, going to the Area 11 website, which is Connecticut, and checking out the 10-minute overview that my friend and colleague member, Matt Kay, put together. It's a 10-minute PowerPoint presentation, and it's beautiful. At any rate, we made another committee suggestion to use the Information and Fellowship Connection to send out thank you notes, or as noted here, anonymity protected voice only PowerPoints, and that the final report can be used as an extension to the information in the AA General Service Manual. So the first recommendation we had, we reviewed the service manual, which is part of our composition, scope, and procedure for our committee. And we focused on chapters 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, which dealt with the three corporations, and requested some update to provide clarity and consistency on the roles, responsibilities, and relationship between the General Service Office and the entities. So that came to a vote on the conference floor. My vote was yes. There was 110 votes yes, 7 no, and that passed with substantial unanimity and became an advisory action. And we also noted, just as a committee consideration, that the AA Service Manual can be utilized for all individuals involved in general service and is not limited to our beautiful GSRs. Our second recommendation was that the regional directories be removed for the composition, scope, and procedure of the committee. And that was because the regional directories were discontinued at the 71st General Service Conference. So that was removed from what the committee does on an annual basis. That went to the conference floor for vote. There was 114 votes yes, 3 votes no. That passes with substantial unanimity and becomes an advisory action. We also had a committee consideration that the General Service Office retire the print listing of central offices, intergroups, and answering services, and that was item F25. Our particular committee secretary has served on the group services desk for a year and a half and has not had a single request for that particular item, and we highlighted the need for cooperation between our areas, districts, intergroups, and central offices to help prospective members find AA. The next committee consideration deals with an advisory action from the 2021 General Service Conference, and that was to add a new section at the end of the 12 concepts for World Service, and this section would be titled Amendments and would contain an updated version of the Concept 11 essay, incorporating updated information from footnotes and endnotes currently, along with a comprehensive description of all of the General Service Board committees, as that has been updated since the original writing of this Concept 11 essay. In the background information for this particular item, there was 4 different presentations from the publishing department, and we appreciated those particular options that were presented, but opted to stick with option 4, which was to add the amendment section as requested in 2021. The next committee consideration was from an item that we received in the committee from Equitable Distribution of Workload from the Literature Committee. And this was a request to include in the GSR your group's link to AA as a whole pamphlet, to include a GSR preamble that has somewhat been used within the fellowship, but is not an official GSR preamble. We took a look at that and took no action on this. And I wish to note that we reviewed it at length, and while initially the feedback had come back almost unanimously from the 8 different areas that our committee represented to approve this, upon further inspection of the preamble itself and also the existing pamphlet, we realized that number one, there was some wording that was problematic in the pamphlet, some of which was referencing a job versus what we typically like to say in AA is a service position, and we didn't feel comfortable making that change on our own. And in addition, we felt that the pamphlet adequately described the service position of the GSR with the language that is on page 1. And we felt that there should be a little bit more local sharing and experience on this particular item. Our next committee consideration also came from a literature item from Equitable Distribution of Workload, and that was to discuss a request to take the chapter titled The Doctor's Opinion from the big book Alcoholics Anonymous and return it to page 1 as it was in the first edition. We reviewed this and took no action on it, and we noted that there wasn't a spiritual need to go back and change this to where it was before, and we looked at some additional information from archives that discussed changes to the second edition of the big book, and there wasn't anything specifically noting why this was changed. I am noting that we did in Area 50 talk about this both at our pre-conference assembly, and we had not substantial unanimity, but we did have a majority that was against making this change. And the same thing we saw in the delegates questionnaire from the 35 groups that responded. There was a majority, but not a substantial unanimity, but a majority that also wished to not make this change. And we had a committee consideration from a item that we added to our own workload, which is something that committees can do. And we discussed a possible addition of the AA Service Manual in American Sign Language, and we asked AA World Services Board to research the need for and the feasibility of a translation of this. That is the final committee consideration from If you have any questions on the work of the Report and Charter Committee or the 72nd General Service Conference as a whole, please feel free to reach out to me at p72delegate@area50wny.org. And I wish to thank you for the opportunity to serve Area 50 and AA as a whole.